Thank you for joining the training on aquatic invasive species in campgrounds, hosted by Adirondack Park Invasive Plant Program. Throughout this training, we're going to cover how to prevent, identify, and report different aquatic invasive species in the Adirondack Park. I'm sure you've heard this message before, but with aquatic invasive species, the thing to keep in mind is to clean, drain, dry. That is to clean all visible plant, animal, mud material from any of your gear, drain any water from your watercraft, and dry your equipment for at least 5 days before launching into a new body of water. This not only applies to boats, but to trailers, paddles, life vests. Anything that goes into the water has the potential to spread invasive species. Boaters are required by New York State law to clean, drain, dry before launching a watercraft into New York State waters. This law is a self-certification, but New York State DEC can inspect and decontaminate any watercraft within the Adirondack Park. While throughout the state it is a self-certification, Lake George does require inspection and certification at a boat wash station prior to launching into Lake George. And you can find boat wash stations and wader wash stations throughout the Adirondack Park. Not only do you want to clean, drain, dry, but you want to dispose of unwanted live bait properly. Never release any live bait into a body of water. It should be disposed of in the trash or far enough away from water on dry land. Here's an overview of aquatic invasive species in the Adirondack area. And today we are going to focus on just a few of them. We have Eurasian Watermilfoil, round Goby, water chestnut, and Hydrilla. So Hydrilla is one that has not yet made it to the Adirondack Park, but it is present in other areas of New York, specifically in the Finger Lakes. This one is a submerged species that looks similar to our native Elodea or American waterweed, and it can really tolerate a wide range of environments and form dense mats. How to identify this plant? You can look at the leaves. The edges of the leaves are toothed and they grow in whorls of 4 to 8. In Elodea, the native species, they grow in whorls of 3 or 4. And for Hydrilla, the undersides of the leaves may have a spine on the midrib. Hydrilla can spread through seeds, tubers, fragmentation, or turions, which is how the plant overwinters. So on the left here we have a picture of the turions, and on the right a picture of their small flowers. Another species we are trying to prevent from entering the Adirondack Park is round Goby. This one is present in the St. Lawrence River, but is not currently present in the Adirondacks. This is a small bottom-dwelling fish. They really like a rocky substrate as opposed to kind of a sandy bottom. And these were originally a marine species, but they were introduced into the Great Lakes and have acclimated to freshwater. And this is a species you should not use as bait, should you find it. There is a native look-alike. In the Adirondacks, we have a slimy sculpin, and one way to tell a difference is that the round goby has fused pectoral fins on their underside that form a disc that they use to suction themselves in place. They also have a black spot behind their first dorsal fin, and they have these big bulging eyes. Water chestnut is a species that is present in the Adirondack Park. This one you will see growing on the surface of the water, but it can grow in water as deep as 16 feet. This plant has two different types of leaves. There are feathery submerged leaves on the left, and then the leaves that you will probably identify it from to begin with is the floating leaves that are triangular and toothed. These floating leaves grow in rosettes, and they have a bladder at the base that helps the plant float. This species spreads a number of ways. They do produce flowers, which in turn produce these spiky fruits. These are a four-sided spiny nutlet that matures towards the end of summer. And these nutlets will persist in the substrate, and they are not pleasant to step on. And the species also reproduces through fragmentation. So if you are removing this plant, you want to make sure to grab the base of each rosette to get the roots up, rather than separating that rosette and leaving fragments in the water. Eurasian Watermilfoil is one that is present throughout the Adirondacks. It is often found on boats and trailers. It is a submerged plant, but it can grow as long as 20 feet, and it branches near the surface where they form dense mats and make it really hard for boaters to get through. Identifying this species is best when you look at the leaves. On the left, you can see that their leaves are kind of feathery. They grow in pairs of 4 around the stem in a whorl. Each of these leaves is very finely divided, and so when it's in the water, it looks kind of floaty and feathery, but when you take it out of the water, it turns limp. And this is a good way to distinguish it from our native coontail. Coontail, when you take it out of the water, will not go limp like this. It will stay kind of bushy. The stems of Eurasian Watermilfoil are green, reddish brown, or whitish pink, and the plant will reproduce through fragmentation of the stems as well. They do also put out flowers. At the end of summer, they will put up spikes at the surface of the water that have tiny pink flowers. If you happen to see any of these species or any other invasive species in the Adirondack Park, you can report them to iMap Invasives. This is an app available through the App Store or Google Play. And you can just create a new observation right on the app. If you happen to be near a boat launch with a boat steward, you can ask them for help. You can bring them a good identification type photo or a physical sample if you happen to be nearby. If you might be a little bit further away, you can put the sample in a little baggie with some water. Some links that might be helpful: if you need to create an iMap Invasives account, you can follow the link at the top. New York Natural Heritage Program has a resource page for answering any questions you might have about iMap Invasives. At adkinvasives.com, you can find APIP's full list of invasive species in the Adirondack Park. We also have a link to New York State DEC's Clean Drain Dry information. If you'd like to find out where your closest boat wash station is, Adirondack Watershed Institute has a map at their website, 80kcleanboats.com. And also on APIP's website, you can find a map of boot brush and wader wash stations. Thank you for following along in this training. I hope it was informative.